The plot thickens. Two more HSBC Bank rumors that the American mainstream media and mainstream financial media will not report to you guys, probably because HSBC Bank pays millions of dollars per year in advertising fees to organizations like CNBC for their wealth management products and mutual funds and all those things. So, because the mainstream media will not report it, I'm going to have to talk about the story. So, a Chinese state-run media company earlier this week called the Global Times. This appears to not be propaganda, this article. This appears to be actual some truth and some halfway decent reporting in here. So this article, I will attach a link to it in the information and description section. These are two more very interesting rumors about HSBC Bank. And if you think that these rumors do not matter, take a look at the ADR receipt on the New York Stock Exchange of HSBC, which since May, it is down from $44.70 to down now to $36.12. And if you look at a shorter term chart from around July 23rd to now, the stock has started to basically go down quite a bit. The angle of the drop is a lot steeper from July 23rd to now. So the stock was around $41.65 then. It's at $36.12. And that started before the rumors came out that Kyle Bass was talking about, with the RMB blowing past the 7 overhead resistance levels to the dollar. And then Kyle Bass, the rumors that I believe he has confirmed with the People's Bank of China borrowing hundreds of billions of dollars from HSBC, Deutsche Bank, and other European banks, but sounds like mostly HSBC. The Bank of England found out. I already reported on this earlier this week. So there were two rumors going around. The other one was that the Chinese government wanted retaliation on HSBC for their role in getting the chief financial officer, the CFO of Huawei, arrested. And supposedly HSBC was threatened with criminal charges by the Americans, and they handed over some documents. So now let's talk about this new article that came out a few days ago. And this article is called HSBC at a Crossroads as Huawei Issues Remain, Hong Kong Unrest Continues. So tough times ahead as top executives exit, Hong Kong unrest continues. So the shock exit of two high-level HSBC executives within a week, including its top executive and the head of key China business, has put the 150-year-old London-based banking giant under public scrutiny and mounting speculations. Late on Monday, Europe's biggest bank, and if you're not familiar with HSBC, they're holding their market cap here on their ADR shares. American Depository Receipt in the U.S. is around $147 billion, $146.49 billion. Okay, back to the article. Okay, HSBC said these reports are, quote, baseless rumors, end quote, about why the executives left. Late on Monday, Europe's biggest bank issued a Chinese statement on its official WeChat account, denying media reports that linked the resignations of its two executives with shareholder pressure over external affairs. The statement came as China's Ping An Insurance, the largest HSBC Bank shareholder. If you're not familiar with Ping An Insurance, I will attach its Wikipedia page. It is the world's largest and most valuable insurer, according to market cap, at $217 billion or 1.4 trillion yuan as of January 2018. There is no more updated there. There is not a lot of information on Ping An in insurance, in English, if you do searches in the search engine. Its Wikipedia page says it is also one of the world's biggest investment and asset management companies, with a total of 958.5 billion or 6.5 trillion yuan as of 2017. So it's a large insurance company, and they have a large stake in HSBC Bank. Ping An Insurance. Okay. The statement came as China's Ping An Insurance, the largest HSBC shareholder, was reported to have been a major promoter of the two executives' resignations. So the Global Times, which is a China state-run newspaper, is reporting the rumor that Ping An Insurance wanted the two executives gone. So that's another rumor. Ping An Insurance overtook New York-based BlackRock, the world's biggest asset manager, to become the largest shareholder of HSBC in November last year with a stake of over 7%. A person close to Ping An refuted the reports, telling the Global Times on Monday that, quote, it is only those media that want to make hype and attract attention, end quote. Ping An clarified on Tuesday morning that it does not engage in the daily operations and management of HSBC, saying its investment in the bank is, quote, purely financial investment, end quote. This also comes amid the bank's alleged involvement in the U.S.'s investigation into Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei, while HSBC has stressed that the top management change, quote, has no relation, end quote, with the Huawei issue. We will continue to contribute the economic prosperity of the Chinese mainland and Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, end quote, HSBC said in the Monday statement. Surprise reshuffle. On Friday, HSBC Holdings Greater China Chief Executive Helen Wang resigned from her position, making the second exit. That was last Friday, not yesterday. The second exit of a senior executive from the bank within a week. Wang, who joined the company. So now there's been 3 key HSB executives who have left in barely a week. Wang, who joined the company in 1992, decided to leave to, quote, pursue an external opportunity, end quote, according to HSBC's spokesperson. Wang's vacancy will not be filled. Instead, the position will be eliminated, and the 4 regional chiefs who previously worked under Wang will continue to collaborate. Just days before, after only 18 months in the role, John Flint stepped down from his post as group chief executive and as a director after, quote, mutual agreement with the board, according to HSBC's statement on August 5th. He was replaced by interim chief Noel Quinn. The bank stated that, quote, in the increasingly complex and challenging global environment in which the bank operates, the board believes a change is needed to meet the challenges that we face and to capture the very significant opportunities before us, end quote. After almost 3 decades with HSBC, Flint was quoted in the statement to have said, quote, I will be sad to leave, but I do so looking forward to a new personal challenge and confident that our people will continue to serve the bank's stakeholders in the best possible way, end quote. That all sounds like BS. So the statements that these executives read and the statements that the bank is issuing on social media and press releases all sound like bullshit. The surprise announcement comes amid HSBC's report of a solid 15.8% rise in pre-tax profits to $12.4 billion in the first 6 months of 2019. The bank announced a further stock buyback of $1 billion, which defied, quote, some analysts' expectations. It might pause its strategy of returning extra capital to investors, end quote, Reuters reported. An anonymous insider at HSBC Bank told the Global Times, this Chinese state-run newspaper, that he considers the move to be the result of an internal reason as some top-level disagreements emerged during Flint's management. So this could add fuel to the fire of Kyle Bass's theory, in my opinion. The insider refused to disclose more details. Despite the company's statement, the shock departure of 2 top executives within a week still brews speculations that the move might be related to external issues. Quote, there must be some relations, even if Huawei is not the main reason, end quote, an industry insider told the Global Times. Huawei woes. Dong Xiaopeng, an advisor for the China Securities Regulatory Commission, told the Global Times on Monday that the consecutive changes at HSBC's executive level are likely related to the arrest of Huawei's CFO Meng Wanzhou in Canada. The bank has helped lead U.S. charges against Huawei as it was attempting to convince the U.S. Department of Justice to dismiss criminal charges for the bank's own misconduct involving U.S. sanctions. So what else did HSBC Bank get into? Because they've been in dirty deals, making many, many billions of dollars, knowingly laundering drug money for terrorist organizations, drug cartels, and organized crime syndicates for decades now. Reuters reported on Friday. So I wonder what else HSBC did, what else the U.S. government had HSBC over a barrel for this time. Everyone knows, in the financial industry knows, that HSBC has problems like that. In fact, HSBC, they acquired this smaller bank called HFC Bank, and the CEO in the last 2 weeks, he killed himself because he was about to get charges. He was involved in a bunch, I believe is in the England area, and the CEO, I have the story in the Wall Street for Main Street Facebook group. And this bank CEO, which HSBC now owned, HFC Bank, they were doing a bunch of really shady loans and bad deals and subprime loans and all this other garbage. So HSBC, more shadiness from HSBC. A source close to the matter told the Global Times previously that the manner in which HSBC helped the Department of Justice acquire documents against Huawei was unethical, as the bank gave out its clients' confidential information in pursuit of its own interests. HSBC's assistance with the U.S. prosecutor's charge against Huawei, which has far exceeded its normal business sphere, has provided the company's obedience to U.S. hegemony, or so-called, quote, long-arm jurisdiction, end quote, according to Dong, who added that the issue has harmed HSBC's integrity and morality. Yeah, if HSBC has had any integrity or morality for a long time. China has been consistent in its opening up by welcoming foreign capital investment, which also sounds like propaganda to me, because normally China's a roach motel for foreign capital. If you don't believe me, go watch the documentary, The China Hustle. But for those who have enjoyed the dividends of China's reform, and this whole paragraph sounds like propaganda, but I'll read it anyway. But for those who have enjoyed the dividends of China's reform and opening up policy over the past decades, yet turned their backs or worked against China's national interests, they deserve criticism and punishment, Dong said. Growing numbers of, okay, this is a big rumor here, guys, and the mainstream media is not reporting this, and this is very, very serious. If this happens to HSBC Bank, they are screwed. The shares could crash more than 20% in a day. Growing numbers of Chinese internet users in mainland China are calling for HSBC's addition to China's blacklist, as the unreliable entity list is still being drafted. Some have also said that HSBC should be one of the first companies placed on the list. So if you're not familiar with what that is, that would basically mean that HSBC Bank would not be allowed to do business in mainland China, and that is their largest and most profitable division, is their Hong Kong and China division. So basically, if this happens, and there's a lot of Chinese people who are starting in mainland China, it's a big movement now, because a lot of Chinese people in mainland China are upset at what HSBC may have done, allegedly, to get Huawei's CFO charged and arrested. So the retaliation would be putting China on this the retaliation would be the Chinese government puts HSBC Bank on this blacklist, and then HSBC can no longer do business in mainland China. So all those profits, their highest profitable industry, would be in jeopardy. So that could be why these executives are retiring now at HSBC Bank. So this would be an additional big rumor. If this ends up happening, like I said, my educated guess, this is not financial advice, I could see HSBC stock collapsing more than 20% in a day or two, and then even more than that in a very short period of time. Some have also said that HSBC should be one of the first companies placed on the list. Sorry, I reread that. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying, when asked at a press conference in early August to comment on the possibility that HSBC will be added to the blacklist, said that the list is still undergoing relevant procedures. HSBC has been lobbying the Chinese government to absolve it of any blame for Meng's arrest, saying it had no choice but to cooperate with the investigation and provide information that U.S. authorities needed to build a case against Huawei, according to media reports. So other chaos ahead, other than the alleged illegal role it played in the arrest of Huawei CFO, which casts a shadow on its mainland businesses. Insiders caution that the UK-based lender also faced other challenges amid rising global uncertainties, such as Brexit and the China-US trade war, as well as the unrest in Hong Kong. About 80% of HSBC, this is the key thing here, guys, and why HSBC stock would crater. About 80% of HSBC's earnings come from Asia, and Hong Kong alone provides the bank with about half of its pre-tax profits, according to a Bloomberg report. A person close to the bank told the Global Times on Tuesday that the company is currently making efforts to cut costs, so they've been firing as well. So the company fired more than 4,000 employees last week, 2% of its global workforce. So one of the rumors, as you saw in there, is that HSBC Bank could be put on a blacklist, that there is rising demand out of mainland China on Chinese social media. Many Chinese citizens in mainland China want HSBC Bank retaliated against and put on a blacklist that would destroy their profits. The other rumor, and it wasn't directly mentioned in this article, it was kind of hinted at. You have to read between the lines, and I heard from a number of Chinese sources that listen to this podcast that are outside of mainland China, that are Chinese though, is the other rumor going around is that the Chinese government now may also have ordered Ping An Insurance, which is very big, is larger now than HSBC Bank. They may have ordered Ping An Insurance to try to take over all of HSBC. And that would be an interesting rumor too, because I wonder why China would want to have one of its larger companies take over a bank that just has tremendous problems, that has a really infamous and notorious reputation for dirty dealings, for enormous amounts of waste, fraud, corruption, abuse. literally, though, if you go and watch the Netflix episode of Dirty Money, there's an entire episode on HSBC with whistleblowers, and it's crazy all the stuff the bank got away with. It would be interesting why the Chinese government would even want it. Maybe they would have easier access to dollars. So there's a number of these theories, guys, that have a good amount of stuff backing it up. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's 4 solid theories now about what could potentially happen to HSBC Bank. Meanwhile, the American mainstream media, European mainstream media, American mainstream financial media, not reporting on any of this stuff. Not a single thing. None of it. So meanwhile, since May, HSBC stock has slipped from $44.70 a share on the New York Stock Exchange, its ADR, down to $36.12. And, as more of these rumors continue to escalate or something happens or more HSBC executives leave, I could see the stock continuing to fall, and the American mainstream media and mainstream financial media will just refuse to report on it. So people are like, why, Jason, are you covering stories like this? Why are you reporting on rumors? Because the stock is clearly being somewhat affected, and the mainstream, even though they just announced a pretty good earnings release, and the mainstream financial media, they're biased as hell. I told you why. If you watch CNBC for half a day, you'll see all these HSBC commercials come up. So not only is Deutsche Bank a problem, it looks like there's a lot of problems coming from HSBC now too. The problems are different. Deutsche Bank's main problems are their derivatives book. They have other problems, but Deutsche Bank's main problems is their over-the-counter derivatives book. HSBC appears to really pissed off the Chinese government. And the Chinese government seems to either deciding whether or not they want to take over the bank, have Ping An with Chinese government help take over the bank, or whether or not the Chinese government may want to actually destroy HSBC Bank now. I didn't see any news if the Hong Kong protesters followed through on the bank run yet. I didn't think it would have much impact, but I'll admit if I'm wrong, unlike other people. Jeff, I agree. All the banks have dirty money. However, HSBC seemed to want to have more dirty money than the other banks. HSBC skirted a bunch of criminal charges here in the U.S. And the guy from HFC Bank that HSBC Bank bought, the CEO of HFC Bank, he was under criminal investigation, and he was about to get a bunch of criminal charges too. And sadly, the poor guy, in the first week of August, he killed himself. Chrono Trigger fan says HSBC is a drug bank and has been since the opium wars. You may be right about that. I haven't looked into that extensively. But their original name was Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, so that would not surprise me. And they're originally British origins. They do most of their business in Asia now, though. No, I've not heard the interview with HSBC whistleblower John Cruz. I watched the Dirty Money documentary, the one episode there on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, they have like a whole hour about all the corruption at HSBC Bank. Did I just say Wong Arm? No, I don't think I said Wong Arm. Kyle Bass was making jokes about that on his Twitter, though, in the last week or two. Well, Anthony, HSBC is technically not a Chinese bank. It's not one of the big four Chinese state-owned enterprise banks. It's a foreign bank that has had long ties to China. So it's technically a European bank, but it's done a lot of its business in Asia for a very long time. But the rumors appear somewhat serious now. I've heard quite a few of them now, especially about Ping An Insurance wanting to increase its stake by a lot more than 7%. From some sources. So we'll see. We'll monitor. I'll keep you guys updated on any other stories or rumors. I would expect more stories to come out because these two new rumors that are added to the two previous rumors, and in some weird way, guys, at least one or two of these things could all happen. So it could have been true that HSBC lent the People's Bank of China hundreds of billions of dollars to help stabilize the RMB when the RMB broke through 7 overhead resistance. That could have been true. Could have also been true that the Bank of England heard and demanded the CEO of HSBC was fired. Could have also been true that China has been for months now very, very angry with HSBC for its role in helping getting the CFO of Huawei charged and arrested. And China was plotting either how to have one of their own banks or Ping An Insurance buy up HSBC and fire the people and take control of it for whatever reason. Maybe they want easier access to dollars, the euro-dollar market or something. I don't know. Or China could have decided, and this was what I talked about in a previous video, that China just wanted to drop the hammer down on HSBC and wanted to totally collapse the bank. And then maybe buy the assets for pennies later. If you're familiar with how the Chinese do commodities contracts, normally what they like to do is they love to come in after a commodities price has totally crashed and there's blood in the streets, and they like to come in and offer a price a little bit above spot price and then try to buy a long-term contract. So they love to, on a fire sale or when there's blood in the streets, come in with a above market offer and try to still buy the assets for pennies. So that could also be true. It could be a weird mix of these things in addition to that. In addition to one or two of the first ones I reported on, the first two rumors and theories, Kyle Bass's theory, and then the other two things that I just talked about today. How Ping An Insurance may be trying a hostile takeover of HSBC Bank, or HSBC Bank may end up on the blacklist in China, which would destroy their most profitable business division. Never a dull moment, right? I mean, I think there's been so many news stories that have come out just in the last 6 to 8 months, and it's accelerating. This reminds me a lot of 2008-9. A lot. All these news stories that are coming out, fast and furious. So many different types of news stories, and almost none of the news stories, guys, are good. And it's not one country, and it's not one problem. So please like this video if you thought it was interesting. I'll attach links to the Global Times article. You know, if the mainstream media and the mainstream financial media were doing their job, were actually checking on these things, I haven't heard a single report on any of this. There's no mention of this on any articles in Seeking Alpha from newsletter writers on why HSBC shares could be falling. There's no mention of any of this. If better analysts or people in the mainstream media in the West were actually doing their job and they weren't taking millions of dollars per year in advertising fees from HSBC Bank and saying, we can't cover any of these stories, I wouldn't have to do these podcasts at all. I wouldn't have to do podcasts about these stories with the rumors. But the stock price is clearly being affected. If you look at the chart since the July 23rd, it's starting to crater. So we'll monitor this story, and we'll see which of these now 4 interesting rumors and theories end up being true. And it could be a weird mix of at least 1 or 2 of them, maybe more. Okay, well, that's it for now, and I'll work on more content for the rest of you guys. Just wanted to give the short little update. And the article from the China Global Times in English that I just read will be in the information and description section at the end of the video, as well as a brief explanation on Ping An Insurance's Wikipedia page, which just shows that Ping An Insurance is pretty big, and maybe the Chinese government will be using it now to do a hostile takeover of HSBC Bank. It's a possibility. Okay, thank you for the super chat, Greg. I appreciate it. Okay, guys, bye for now.